Jungle Cruise. And I'm not talking The Rock coming July 30th, 2021. Get out of here, Dwayne. I'm talking the ride. This riverboat adventure is a classic, but is it better in Disneyland California or over at the Magic Kingdom in Florida? It's time for another Versus. Like much of Adventureland in both Disneyland and Disney World, the setting of Jungle Cruise is a 1930s British-style expedition of the rainforest. A very glorified, over-the-top version of it, but it's very cohesive all the same. Taken out on this jungle riverboat expedition feels very dangerous, very adventurous, very, very fun. Disneyland's Jungle Cruise was an opening day attraction, dating it back to 1955, and the ride is largely unchanged to this date, with a couple extra new little scenes, a little river detour at some point, and obviously the forest has had much time to grow in, and the last major difference being that the original script was very serious and like a nature documentary, where today's version of the ride is hilarious, with skippers cracking dad jokes at you right and left. Over in the Magic Kingdom, the ride is also an opening day attraction, dating it at 1971 when that ride first set sail. It's for the most part a copy of Disneyland's version of the ride if you're not paying attention. They did have 15 years to come up with new animatronics, new scenes, and obviously Disney World has a lot more space for the ride to take place in, which has resulted in some pretty major changes from coast to coast, which we will get into right now. For round one, we will be looking at the exterior visual appearance as you walk up to the Jungle Cruise. Over in Disneyland, Jungle Cruise is right in the middle of the one cramped street of Adventureland, and as you approach it, it is a 2-story Jungle River Expedition outpost with this 3-story spire in the middle, a very impressive sign telling you the name of the ride. It looks great, and it sets the stage right away for what you are getting into. It's very visually impressive, but at the same time, it blends into the jungle around it as the jungle has had time to grow up and over this very impressive building. Not to mention, you can see the rivers as you're eating a snack at the new Tropical Hideaway. You can kind of peer into the jungle rivers and the boarding area. It fits very well into that cozy jungle corner of Adventureland. Over at the Magic Kingdom, Adventureland has had much more space, as I mentioned earlier. So you go down a little bit of a slope and onto this big plaza where you will see yet another Jungle River Expedition outpost. Very similar looking, although Magic Kingdom's is only 1 story tall. And as I mentioned, with all that extra space, there's definitely some more room for crowd control, which is nice. But as far as the Adventureland immersion goes, it's almost a downside. It doesn't feel like this expedition outpost in the middle of a cramped jungle. It looks like an expedition outpost at the end of a concrete courtyard. And for that reason, mostly, plus the only being 1 story tall thing, this first point for the exterior, I'm gonna have to give to Disneyland. For round 2, we'll be looking at the queues of the ride, which is obviously very important as this is where you're going to be spending a big chunk of time depending on how busy the day is. Over in Disneyland, the queue is nice. It's more continuing of that theme of this expedition outpost, and it looks very lived in. You get little bits and pieces of lore about this expedition that you're on, as well as the people who might work or live there with a game of chess using all sorts of odds and ends from around their expedition supplies to all sorts of other pieces of art and supplies and whatnot around the room. It's very fun, and plus you do go up to that 2nd story when needed. If it's a busy day, which is most days, the queue will wind up to the 2nd floor for some more space. Not ideal, but it's kind of cool in the same time. You know, you don't want to walk upstairs if you don't have to, but it's kind of cool. You get a good, nice scenic look of Adventureland. And there's this animatronic hornbill that's pretty cool. It's a nice touch. He doesn't talk or anything like his friendly neighbors next door, but he is a very cool animatronic bird. All in all, the queue is pretty simple. My favorite thing about it is actually the soundtrack, is this 1930s swing music radio broadcast with a silly radio DJ who will give corny intermissions between songs. It adds to that theming as well, but that's also in the Disney World version, which is, again, very similar. Just one story, no upper floor, but there's a lot of the same kind of decor setting the stage and the theme for this ride that you are getting onto while this radio broadcast plays. And in place of an animatronic bird, there is this little spider in a cage that sometimes if you get too close to him, he like jumps at you. Like, yeah, scary. I couldn't actually find a video of it. And he's kind of dusty nowadays from what I could find, but he's still pretty cool. It's a nice little touch. All in all, both of these queues are nice, but they're simple. They're nothing extraordinary, and they're too similar to each other for me to really give a point in either direction, which is why for round 2, I am giving both rides a point and calling it a tie. For our third and final round, we will finally be looking at the rides themselves, ride to ride, ride experience to ride experience. Which ride is better? And because this final round is so important, I will be giving 2 points to the winning ride. And I'd like to give a quick little shout out, thank you to YouTuber Da People's Stuff for the great username and great idea. Thank you very much. And before we get into this little competition, I want to acknowledge that a big part of what makes the Jungle Cruise great is your skipper. Skipper to skipper, there's so much variance in the ride with how funny, how relatable, how good of a job the skipper does. It's a very, very important cast member's job, and sometimes the ride can be much better or much worse, just depending on that. So for the sake of this last little thing here, comparing the rides themselves, I want to pretend like the skippers aren't even there, like the ride is just driving itself with no commentary. I know, terrible. That would be disgusting. Let's never do that. But it's going to help us decide a winner in this round. Disneyland has a timeless Jungle Cruise. It is just, again, it's since opening day largely unchanged, but the ride is just as great as ever, if not better. Some of the animatronics are showing a little bit of their age, but as the jungle keeps growing and growing, the ride feels more authentic, more dangerous, and just so fun. The ride takes you through the rivers of South America and Asia and Africa. You get to go past elephants bathing and hippos, piranhas. You go past ancient ruins and a village full of native headhunters. It is really an adventure. The Jungle Cruise is a really perfect ride. I think it often gets overlooked, but it is such a classic and beloved ride. It never gets worse. It only seems to get better the more I ride the Jungle Cruise. Magic Kingdom, however, is very similar, as I mentioned, but a lot of the biggest differences happen because they have more space in the Magic Kingdom. So the jungle is larger. The jungle itself goes deeper. The ride is a little longer because they just had more space to work with. One great example of that is the Africa Savannah scene. In Disneyland, there's kind of a jungle growing over the savannah, which is a little bizarre, but it's much more wide open over in the Magic Kingdom, so that scene is improved. The Headhunter Native Village is much improved in the Magic Kingdom. Both the animatronics and the sets themselves are a lot more impressive over in Disney World in the Magic Kingdom. Plus, the animatronics are just a little bit newer. At least 15 years or so newer just from the opening date of each ride, but I'm sure a lot of those have been cycled out and upgraded and worked on over time. But the animatronics are noticeably a little bit better over in the Magic Kingdom. And the biggest thing, the biggest difference that stands out in the mind of any rider who's been on both of these is the scene in the Cambodian temple. In the Magic Kingdom, there's part of the ride where I know we're not talking about the skipper, but the skipper shuts up. Headlights turn on and it turns into a little dark ride through this ancient temple. Where in Disneyland, you just go past ruins. Disney World, you go through them, and it's a little spooky. It's very eerie, and it's really a wonderful scene. If you know my aesthetics, you know how much I love the Indiana Jones ride. You know that that is right up my alley. So maybe I'm a little biased, but I absolutely adore that section of the ride, and I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't. If you think that section of the ride is a bad thing for Jungle Cruise, let me know in the comments below. But I'm not sure if you exist, so there's that. The one real downgrade in the Disney World Magic Kingdom version of the ride compared to Disneyland is at the very, very end of the ride, Trader Sam, the headhunter or salesman who sells shrunken heads. In Disneyland, he's this native-looking guy. He looks like a stand-up gentleman who'll sell you some shrunken heads, and it just fits very well. But in Disney World, I don't know if there's lore behind this guy that I don't understand, but it's just this chunky dude with a parasol and no shirt on, and I'm confused. He looks lost. He looks like he was on his way to like some like hair metal concert, and ended up in the jungle selling shrunken heads. So I hate that guy. But it's not enough to change the fact that Disney World's ride is better. The Magic Kingdom is taking these 2 points for the ride itself. And there you have it, the Magic Kingdom taking the win on this episode of Versus. Let me know if you agree or disagree down below. You will either way, whether or not I ask, but let me know if you agree or disagree. And also answer that poll question, should be right up there. I'm always confused as to what direction it is, but answer that poll question. Which Jungle Cruise is your favorite? Disneyland, Disney World, or maybe you're a fancy pants who's been on Jungle Cruise. It's also in Tokyo, Hong Kong, and I think they're all different in their own way. So take that poll. What is your favorite Jungle Cruise? And also let me know in the comments what verses you would like to see next. I know I've been gone a long time. If you didn't see my little update, I know it's been a while, but I'm making videos again. I already have more getting scripted, more that are recorded, and I'm trying to get back in the swing of this because I miss you guys and I miss Disneyland, and the world is crazy, but Disneylander is also crazy. So I'll see you next time, guys. Until then, you guys see this shirt, by the way? Remember this? Only real Disneylander fans will remember this.